On your left, Rich Cali on your right. Possibility Storm versus Is It in Soul. And if you're looking to learn more about this Possibility Storm deck, make sure you stay till the end of the round because we'll have a deck tech with Aaron breaking down how this entire deck works. Botanical Sanctum, Llanowar Elves is where the fun begins here for us on day number 2.
We talked about during our metagame breakdowns and some of our pregame shows, you know, sort of the feeling of the absence of combo in Pioneer. Not the case.
Nothing non-combo-y about this deck. It is looking to accelerate towards Possibility Storm, and then after that, well, we don't want to spoil the fun. We'll let you wait and see what's going to happen, assuming it does come up. Bomac Courier attacking and taking a card. Now there's a copy of Lovestruck Beast. The 5/5 is ready to block. That 5/5 is going to be a bit of an issue. Oh, that's Rosethorn Acolyte. Excuse me. See, there we go again with the alternate art cards. You think it's a Lovestruck Beast, it's a Rosethorn Acolyte, which taps for any mana and accelerates. Now I just feel like a bozo. I bet this one a Lovestruck Beast?
There are 4 in Barich's deck.
Right? Here's 4 mana. What's this one? Ah, Gift of the Fae. More importantly, Fae of Wishes. But more importantly, Granted. Here we go. Do we got the alternate art on this one too? Fae of Wishes? Okay, fair enough. So I know this one because I had to worry about this for the Pro Tour last weekend. And now Fae of Wishes gets to search for a non-creature card. That one would be Possibility Storm. So this should be fun. We'll get Possibility Storm up on the screen. Don't you worry at home, folks. This one's got a lot of text, and Rich is wondering exactly how this card does work. Aaron, she is taking a moment to explain it, and we will bring it up on the screen and go over it for you fine folks at home here in just a moment. I like the Fae of Wishes technology here, able to find the Possibility Storm in the sideboard, which means you have a virtual 7 copies. Now this red enchantment, we'll take a look at it as Cali is going to get some work done here with the Smuggler's Copter. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it, then exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a card that shares a card type with it. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then he or she puts all cards exiled with Possibility Storm on the bottom of his or her library in a random order. So, once this is on the battlefield, this unique ability with adventures is where things get a little bit out of control.
Right, because the only sorcery that's in the deck here is Enter the Infinite. So you're guaranteed to hit that if you play an adventure. That's a sorcery.
That is correct. Now, the fear here for Barich is, does Rich Cali have a counterspell? Now, this deck does sometimes play a card like Metallic Rebuke, and Rich Cali is playing 3 main deck copies.
Well, part of the problem is that there's no guarantee that Barich's position gets better because she's also without double red if the mana creature dies.
That's correct. If the Rosethorn Acolyte does die, it's going to be a problem. So now Barich is going to go to Fae of Wishes, follow that up with an Elvish Mystic in combination with the Llanowar Elves. So now mana doesn't appear to be a problem. Might be able to actually play through Metallic Rebuke pretty easily.
Well, I also think, you know, the Possibility Storm is symmetrical. It's a lot of value for Cali if Barich just puts it on the battlefield and passes the turn back. That's actually fairly risky. I think Barich would prefer to set up shop in such a way that she does everything in all one turn to prevent Rich from just spinning up some extra creatures and spells.
Yeah. Now this is going to be a Shrapnel Blast. I'm going to kill the Fae of Wishes with the Shrapnel Blast. Bomac Courier is going to bite the dust, it appears. That's a tough way to get rid of a 1/4 flyer, but clearly Cali would like that Smuggler's Copter to get through. Now, Barich does have the ability to return the Fae of Wishes to hand. Actually, no, short a little bit. No, actually, no. Has the ability to do it. Pardon me.
Costs 2 cards,
Costs 2 cards, and that's a lot of cards, so just going to let it die. Apologies for my stumbles and fumbles early here this morning. This Possibility Storm is taking me by surprise. So we head back over to Rich Cali, who has one in open earlier this year. a Legacy Open champion in Syracuse. And now this is going to allow for some improvising, it appears. And drew a copy of Ensoul Artifact. And that was Skilled Animator, I believe. Now Hope of Gear Pow will be sacrificed. Meaning that Barich, I do not believe, has the ability to play Possibility Storm this turn.
And this is a really good setup for Cali here. You knock Barich down to 8. Your Smuggler's Copter is good to go next turn. Barich can add to her battlefield this turn because of the Gear Power, and then the Shrapnel Blast can close the game out.
The scary thing about this deck that Rich Cali is playing is that it deals damage in chunks of 5 very easily, and 5 is a lot of damage. We're going to crew it up.
And I think another Shrapnel Blast, the draw step here. So Barich is going to need a ton to survive this.
And Barich being at 5 right now means that Shrapnel Blast is going to be lethal. So Rich Cali is going to win game number 1 here over Aaron Barich. Is it Ensoul, dealing chunks of damage in 5s? Up a game over Possibility Storm. We will go to Barich's sideboard now. We will find 4 copies of Mystical Dispute, 2 Aether Gust, 2 Flame Sweeps, 2 Fry, 2 Abrade, a Chandra, Awakened Inferno, a Possibility Storm, which we saw Barich wish for, and a Return to Nature here, Patrick.
I think you want the 2 Abrades for sure, and the Mystical Disputes are maybe not great here, but probably good against any sideboard cards that Cali has, and have enough targets in the main deck that it should be over the line.
Other side of things here for Rich, he's got 3 Wild Slashes, 2 Flame Sweeps, 2 Fries, 2 Stubborn Denials, 2 of the Antiquities War, 2 Tormod's Crypts, an Aether Gust, and a Smash to Smithereens.
So I like the Wild Slashes as a way to suppress some of the mana creatures. I can also be talked into the Antiquities War as a possibility. You know, if Barich has removal for artifacts in her sideboard, the game goes on a little bit longer. The Antiquities War can be good there. And it's also good the other way. If she's not very good at interacting with the battlefield such that you get to keep your artifacts, the Antiquities War can be extremely good in those games as well.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 2 will be underway here in just a moment between former Invitational champion Aaron Barich and SCG Tour Open champion Rich Cali. So both these players have some accomplishments on their resume to be sure. But before we do watch game number 2, let's talk about the Star City Games Weekly Sale. I know you like basic lands. You love a basic mountain, of course.
Love it. Love these basics.
Bountiful.
Not the snow-covered one so much.
Oh,
but the
how
other
dare
one.
you.
Anyways, over at go.starcitygames.com/sale, every week Star City Games has a new sale. It gets updated 11 a.m. Monday, East Coast time. So make sure you're going back to the website at least once a week to check out the sale. Right now, for limited time remaining, a basic land sale. Lots of different arts, foils, sets, you name it. A lot of good deals right now over at go.starcitygames.com/sale on basic lands.
What you got beef with snow-covered lands about, huh? What's your deal, Burrow?
I got a beef with the Astrolabe, and those are kind of connected things, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's not the land's fault necessarily.
I blame the land. No, actually, no. I don't blame the land. I blame the Astrolabe.
The Astrolabe.
The Astrolabe's just a powerful card. We're allowed to have powerful cards.
Some are.
It's your least favorite kind of powerful card.
Yeah.
I know.
It's powerful because it's cheap and draws a card, and it is a game object that interacts with things that care about game objects.
It does all those things. You still awake there? You good?
But barely.
Okay?
Barely hanging on.
Barely hanging on.
Barely.
We want to see the Possibility Storm, folks. We want to see this deck do its thing. It's done its thing plenty here for Barich this weekend. 3-1 in the Pioneer portion, 3-1 in the Modern portion is Aaron Barich. Modern playing Infect, no surprise there. And Infect looking to be pretty well positioned in Modern right now, I think, too. which is kind of exciting.
Well, we talked a lot in the pregame show about just the dearth of just cheap removal spells. And, you know, Infect is not necessarily good in the Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, Path to Exile, saturated metagames, but we are not there at all right now. These decks are not very good at interacting with cheap creatures, and the same way that Amulet Titan gets to benefit with Sakura Tribecell Scout and Azusa because of that reality, Infect just as a deck gets to benefit from it as well.
Yeah.
Scale up. Good metagame call right now. People are not killing things.
It is interesting that Infect, I think, could be incredibly well positioned here this weekend, and Barich looking to take advantage of that. This deck here in Pioneer, Possibility Storm, a very unique, interesting, different deck. Now, I think that Barich was not going to win that game regardless because of the number of Shrapnel Blasts that were drawn, but also it looked like Cali had that Metallic Rebuke in hand to take care of the Possibility Storm, in which case Barich had no chance to win. So I think she did a nice job of reading the situation well, and now we get ready here for game number 2. Looks like it's a one-lander. I don't think any red mana either. Gilly Goose can help. It's a little risque.
Yeah, a lot of ways for this to go bad.
Or go really good. It'll be a keep. Risky business. Start things off with a Llanowar Elves. For Rich, it's a Spire Bluff Canal. Oh boy, it's a Wild Slash.
Not the card Barich wanted to see.
And drawing Once Upon a Time is not ideal either. There is a Llanowar Elves. We're gonna, excuse me, it's an Elvish Mystic. I don't want to confuse the two. We head back over to Rich Cali. Now, it is worth noting that this Ensoul artifact deck does not play a ton of removal, so keeping a hand like this might be okay. Now here is Once Upon a Time on the hunt for a land, ideally a green source, or that Mana Confluence, or heck, even that Botanical Sanctum. There's some goodies there. One could argue that Mana Confluence is the best of the bunch because it does tap for red.
Yep. Barrett's starting to break out a little bit here, being able to make a land drop this turn, and I assume play another Accelerator.
There is the Gilded Goose. It is loose. Food token on the way. We're heading back over to Rich Cali. It was a risky keep, to be sure, for Barich, but it looks to be working out okay now. Now, do remember, last game, Rich Cali had the counterspell Metallic Rebuke for the Possibility Storm. Unclear if that is the case right now. Cali's going to go to Hope of Gear Pal, crew the Copter, in with the Copter, draw and discard time. Looks like drawn now was a copy of Metallic Rebuke. Smuggler's Copter's going to head to the graveyard. 3 damage will come through. Barich down to 17. Don't forget that the Gilded Goose does have flying, so a block on the Smuggler's Copter could take place at some point, so long as the Goose is alive. That'll be a Shivan Reef. This is the Serpent. We'll get a couple counters on that one. But Stonecoil Serpent has shown up to the party.
XX for X. I believe it has reach, trample, protection from multicolor.
I think you've nailed it.
A lot going on. Very flexible. Can play for 1 if you have an explosive and soul artifact draw. Could be very good later on in the game. Found some decks also just generally struggle with the card. I was watching Dara Ayers play against Martin Mueller, whose deck, his interaction is so heavy on gold creatures, and very much struggled to handle this card.
Oh, where do we go from here? That'll be a Breeding Pool untapped. This will be an Oko, Thief of Crowns. We know how powerful that card is. Looks like make a food, sack the food, play a Fae of Wishes as a 1/4 flying blocker, and pass the turn back. So, we'll head back over to Rich Cali now.
Trying to set up a little bit of defense around Oko.
This is the kind of game that Oko can run away with. The food generation is certainly nice to keep Barich's life total high, and we could even see some swapsies. Looks like Cali may have a question here for our judge and/or table spotter, but I may be wrong as we move forward now with a skilled animator. There's a Stonecoil Serpent. Reach, trample, protection from multicolored. Enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it. Maybe the most pushed X creature of this type, maybe ever.
I mean, I remember Ivy Elemental as a rare.
Yeah. Endless One was an Eldrazi. That's part of the reason that card was so good. In combination with Eye of Ugin, as we all do remember. This one's really an attempt to really push this style of card. So it looks like Oko's going to bite the dust. Cali understands how important it is to get that card off the battlefield, and now we head back over to Barich, who has a window to resolve Possibility Storm, I believe. Now, of course, this does require double red. Once upon a time. 3, 4, 5.
You had to go back to the earlier call of taking Botanical Sanctum over Mana Confluence. Now Barich without double red and at risk of really getting into trouble if something were to happen to the Gilded Goose.
Here's Spire Bluff Canal. That'll be the choice. That'll be the land for the turn. And we are passing the turn back over to Rich Cali. Cali with some decisions here. Again, this is a game where you like to leave up Metallic Rebuke to counter the namesake enchantment of this deck that Barich is playing. But you'd also like to get your opponent dead if you can. For now, Skilled Animator is going to turn on the Copter, and everybody's going to come into the red zone. So Copter will trigger, draw, and discard. The draw from the Copter, pardon me, was a Bomat Courier. A different one will go to the graveyard. And now it's time to declare some blocks. Fae of Wishes can safely get in front of a Smuggler's Copter. That's a 3/3 into a 1/4. And now Gilded Goose is going to get in front of the Hope of Gear Pal. That's a 1/1 into an 0/2. So the Serpent will do 2 points of damage. And now the follow-up is a Ginger Brute.
All the hits.
Yeah. A Bomat Courier and the ability to play Metallic Rebuke. Give an Improvise.
Yeah, this might be one of those spots where Cali is just coming at it from too many angles. Pressure, counter spells, a lot of reach. This is, historically been a good recipe for fighting combo decks across all formats. And can Barich get something impactful to resolve and then be able to go off in the same turn?
Well, oddly, Barich's draw this turn was a Mystical Dispute. So the ability to play Mystical Dispute and Possibility Storm in the same turn is here.
Yeah, but the problem is that then you would just be totally tapped out. Even if you Mystical Dispute back, now you're tapped out, you have one blocker, and Cali gets the better of it with the Possibility Storm for the next turn.
Correct.
Any instant might turn into a Shrapnel Blast on top of everything else. So you see Barich didn't even bother to leave up the Mystical Dispute because from her perspective, she needs to do everything all in one shot. She needs the green mana to be able to cast a sorcery after the fact.
And that's what makes it very, very difficult in this situation. Here is a Skilled Animator.
And if she needs to chump block with an Elvish Mystic, then she's short mana and red mana next turn. She's missing type and volume to be able to try to do everything next turn. I don't even think she has another Possibility Storm in hand.
Yeah, I think the goal here for Barich is to peel Possibility Storm and go off that way. And the hope, there is no hope. It's a concession of the game. Rich Cali is going to win this game and match her over Aaron Barich. 2-0. Is it in Souls going to take care of Possibility Storm and what appeared to be a pretty difficult matchup there for Barich, unfortunately for her. But for Rich Cali fans out there, he is 7-2 and off to a great start here on day number 2.